They say the future is unwritten, but that's a lie. Your future is already speaking to you. It's whispering in your quietest hours. It's pulling at your chest when you're alone with your thoughts. It's screaming through your dissatisfaction, through your dreams, through the gap between who you are and who you know you could be. You feel it. That ache isn't confusion. It's clarity denied. That burning isn't anxiety. It's potential unused. That silence in your soul, that's the voice of your future, demanding a new version of you. Not a better version. A new one. Because the life you want, the wealth, the freedom, the purpose, the power, it does not exist at your current level of self. You can't climb new mountains with old legs. You can't enter the promised land with the same thinking that kept you wandering in circles. The world you crave is already out there, but the door to it isn't opened by talent, luck, or connections. It's opened by transformation, and transformation only begins when you stop negotiating with mediocrity. That's where this begins. Not with hustle, not with goals, with identity. You cannot have what you refuse to become. Think of Edison, not as an inventor, but as a man who failed 10,000 times without folding in on himself. Why? Because he became someone whose purpose was bigger than his pride. Carnegie, born in a single-room cottage, didn't build steel empires because of brilliance. He did it because he stepped into the identity of a builder when the world still saw him as a laborer. Lincoln mocked, broken, defeated again and again, until he became the man the moment required. They all heard the voice of their future and they answered, not by hoping, not by wishing, but by dying to their former selves and resurrecting as someone the world had never seen before. Now, let me ask you, what part of you has overstayed its welcome? What mindset? What excuse? What identity? Because every breakthrough demands a burial. Every rise starts with a death. Your comfort zone is not your friend. It is your casket. And belief is the chisel that breaks open the tomb. Because nothing moves without belief. Not your mind, not your actions, not your future. Napoleon Hill said it clearly. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But most people stop at conception. They fantasize, they imagine, but they never believe. And what you don't believe, you don't fight for. You don't stay up late for what you doubt. You don't bleed for a dream you halfway trust. Belief is a force multiplier. When you believe deeply, time bends, focus sharpens, and failure becomes fuel, not evidence. When you believe, you act as if the outcome is inevitable, and the world eventually surrenders to that kind of certainty. But belief alone isn't enough. You can't just visualize and vibe your way to greatness, because belief without clarity is chaos. You have to get precise, not in the vague, watered-down way most people talk about goals. I'm talking laser clarity. What exactly does your new life look like? Can you see it in detail? Can you taste it, touch it, walk through it in your mind so vividly that it feels more real than your current life? That's not fantasy. That's blueprinting. You are the architect of your reality. And like any great architect, you don't build by accident. You draft every inch of the design with ruthless specificity. You don't wake up and wait to see what happens. You create the conditions. You define the outcome. You sculpt the path. The mind craves direction. Without it, it turns on itself. Doubt grows in the fog. Confusion breeds procrastination. But clarity slices through hesitation like a blade. When you know where you're going and who you must become to get there, your current life becomes unacceptable. And that's the key. Your life only changes when the pain of staying the same exceeds the fear of change. Comfort is not your reward. It's your restraint. So wake up from the sleepwalk. Burn the blueprint of who you've been. Because your future, your real future, isn't interested in your excuses, your habits, or your story. It wants results. It wants resolve. And more than anything, it wants to see if you're ready to shed your skin, to kill the version of you who's clinging to safety and give birth to the one who commands destiny. There is a version of you who doesn't hesitate, who doesn't wait for motivation or the right time or someone to validate their potential. There is a version of you who wakes up with fire in their lungs and steel in their spine. That version is not a fantasy. It's a decision. Understand this: you are not limited by your circumstances. You are limited by the identity you refuse to evolve. Because the old you was built for survival. But the life you're after, it demands someone built for expansion. And expansion starts with discipline. Not the kind you force for a few days and drop after a bad week. I'm talking about the sacred, unshakable kind of discipline. The kind that turns your vision into non-negotiable action. The kind that doesn't wait for permission, comfort, or applause. Discipline is the bridge between the man you are and the life you want. And that bridge doesn't get built when it's convenient. It gets built in the dark, when no one is watching, when your old patterns scream at you to quit, when everything in you wants to take the easy road, and you still choose the path that demands more. Because the future doesn't care how you feel today. It only rewards what you did despite how you felt. And here's the truth the weak never want to face. You will never rise higher than your rituals. Not your talent. Not your ideas. Not your dreams. If your habits are weak, your results will be weaker. You don't manifest success, you install it. Daily. Repeatedly, with sweat, with sacrifice, with discipline that doesn't blink. Think about the greats. Ford didn't guess his way to mass production. He disciplined himself into obsession with efficiency. Walt Disney didn't accidentally create magic. He was relentless in his vision. They weren't just dreamers. They were architects of behavior. They shaped every hour of their day like sculptors with a chisel. That's what you're being called to become. Not just a dreamer, but a disciplined creator. Because clarity without discipline is delusion, and action without direction is chaos. You need both. And once you have them, belief, clarity, discipline, you enter the phase that separates the hungry from the haunted. The phase of painful persistence. Because it will get hard. Let me say that again, because too many people flinch when the resistance comes. It will get hard. You will fail. You will doubt. You will lose people. You will break down. You will face the version of you that still wants to crawl back to comfort. But resilience is not about avoiding breakdowns. It's about refusing to stay broken. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the currency of growth. You want wisdom? Pay in discomfort. You want grit? Pay in repetition. You want mastery? Pay in lonely hours when no one is clapping. Every great transformation demands pain. But if you can learn to suffer with purpose, if you can bleed with meaning, you will unlock the rarest kind of power, inner indestructibility. Because the truth is, most people aren't defeated by failure. They're defeated by their reaction to it. They're crushed by disappointment because they made struggle mean something it doesn't. That I'm not good enough. That I'm not ready. That it's not meant for me. But champions don't ask if it's meant for them, they decide it is. And they earn it through relentless, soul-splitting resilience. That's what your future demands. Not inspiration. Evolution. It doesn't want you to feel good. It wants you to level up. And that means pain. That means humility. That means letting go of the pride that says you've done enough and reaching for a higher standard every single day. Because average is always available. It's easy. It's comfortable. It's the default setting of a mind left untrained. But greatness? Greatness is earned. Greatness is the result of decisions made in silence. When you choose to run instead of sleep, to study instead of scroll, to build instead of beg, You don't attract success. You become the kind of person success can't ignore. And when you do, when you stop waiting, stop blaming, stop hiding, something shifts. The world begins to bend. Opportunities appear where there was only fog. People start to see in you what you finally see in yourself. Because that's the law. The inner world creates the outer one.